Audiobook Club with Steve Phillips and Matthew Layton.
On this episode of Audiobook Club, the grand old Duke of York was once a very naughty boy.
Andrew quickly grew into the classic spoiled brat. Aware of his high rank from an early age, arrogant and overbearing, he would order staff about and, according to one member of staff, be a bloody nuisance. Even the Queen described him as a bit of a handful. He was fond of practical jokes, hiding knives and forks when a footman was laying the table, tying the shoelaces of sentries, teasing his grandmother, and reputedly an Anglican bishop at Balmoral as well, with a whoopee cushion, putting itching powder into his mother's bed, turning the aerial at Buckingham Palace so she could not watch the racing at Sandown, and putting washing up liquid in the palace pool. A valuable silver tray was used as a toboggan for sliding down palace stairs, and he would pedal furiously up and down the long red-carpeted corridors on his tricycle. Almost from the beginning, he felt a strong sense of entitlement, with fawning staff, lavish homes, chauffeured cars, and showed himself to be willful, exuberant, gregarious, undisciplined, and aggressive, and possessed of a limited attention span. Evelyn Muir Bell, who worked at Windsor between 1973 and 1995, remembered him as the most troublesome royal. A tiresome little shit.
Audiobook Club with Steve Phillips and Matthew Layton.
Hello and welcome to Audiobook Club, the podcast about audiobooks that loves Pizza Express and sweats like a pig. Matt. Hi, Matt.
Hello, Steve. I love making you say things.
Yes. Yeah, I just read that.
Still fun. Well, welcome back.
Welcome back. Here we are, season 3. I did want to say a welcome back to Audiobook Club, where this week we're going through a lot of princely sums, but you came up with something much more highbrow than I ever did.
Yes, well, that's my job, isn't it? No, it's more lowbrow. I'm nothing but filthy, lowbrow and smutty. Speaking of which, that leads me on to another little clip I prepared that I didn't think I was going to get a chance to play. But right up your Strasser, here is a list of the guests from the wedding of the Duke and Duchess of York, or Prince Andrew and Sarah Ferguson, as she was until that point, that I thought you might enjoy.
Almost 2,000 guests had filled the Abbey. Among them Nancy Reagan, the racing driver Jackie Stewart, the comedian Billy Connolly and his actress wife Pamela Stephenson, Elton John and his wife Renata, Michael and Shakira Kane, Barry Humphries, the American comedian Joan Rivers, and the actor Anthony Andrews, as well as foreign royals, aristocrats, and the great and the good.
How's that? For Elton John and his wife Renata. That dates it, doesn't it?
That's going back a little bit, isn't it? Well, you may have noticed, dear listener, that this week we're casting an ear over entitled The Rise and Fall of the House of York by Andrew Lownie, narrated by the author. Came out a couple of weeks ago as we record. It's a stonking 11 hours and 40 minutes and published by William Collins. And this, is fair to say, has set the Audiobook Club world alight. It's the bestseller at the minute, and I'd be very remiss if we didn't cast an ear over the House of York in this week's episode.
It came to my attention because a couple of weeks ago, just as the book was being released, I think the release date was 18th of August. I'll have a look at that in a minute and confirm. But Andrew Lownie, who I'd never heard of before, was on many of the things that I listened to, basically tearing the Duke of York a new one. And you and I, having worked at the BBC, we know how these things work. If you want to plug your book, you would better on Radio 5 Live or BBC Breakfast or, a newsy type program, you've got to have a news line. And of course, the Epstein story that refuses to go away from Trump is linked to this. So the timing must have been magnificent for Lownie and his publishers. That was great. So that's why I was drawn to the book. It didn't turn out to be what I expected. But yeah, so
Do you want to expand on that now, or should we park that for a little
let's
bit?
park that for a little bit. But let's start. So this whole book is about the Duke and Duchess of York and their story and it tells both of their childhood stories, as you heard from that clip in the beginning. What I've done, Steve, is I'm going to ask you a question, and it is, her first question is, have you read the book?
Yes, pretty much.
Okay. Yeah, that doesn't matter. It's almost better if you're not. So I put in the script, if you scroll down to the bit where it says Bants, I've given you a little visual guide.
Oh, they're all there.
Off the top of your head, what do you think of when you see... Just use it as a tool. Pretend you haven't... Pretend to the listener
A tool for
that I've
what?
not given you, basically, a 4-stage crutch. Yeah. What do you think of when you think of Prince Andrew? Steve?
Did you say crutch? Sorry, the line's very bad at the moment.
Get on with it.
Well, yes. I mean, this is.
Well, no. What do you think? What do you think when I say Prince Andrew? Is what I'm trying to ask.
Well, I think you summed it up in these 4 pictures. Shall I explain what these 4 pictures are?
No, pretend you haven't seen the 4 pictures.
No,
but I'm just giving you
Right.
a little visual. The 4 pictures that I put up there do not exist. Just I thought they might remind you of. They might trigger something in your memory.
Oh,
and
they
some
do.
wise words and perhaps a historical overview. Or you can just describe the pictures, whichever you want to do, really.
Well, you know me. I'm nothing if not base and simplistic. But yes, essentially, Prince Andrew, the second son of the Queen. I'm doing a biography about Prince Andrew here. If no one's heard of Prince Andrew, you've come to the right place.
Well,
I'll explain for you. Second son of the Queen, and he had a career. Well, I thought a distinguished career in the Royal Navy. He knocked it out the park in the Falklands and so on. Got married to Sarah Ferguson, got slightly unmarried to Sarah Ferguson, and then just went absolutely nuts everywhere. And frankly, this book turned out, well, I don't know, a book in sort of, it's a game of 2 halves really, or quarters actually, because it's a double biography of both Sarah and Andrew. And it dives both into the financial sector and the private life sector and the behavior sector. And the financial sector, I don't know about you, but it just felt like a 5.5 hour reading out of invoices.
do you know what? That is exactly where I was going to conclude this episode. But I also remember that not everybody remembers Prince Andrew the way that we do. In fact, you made my point in that for a British listener, he's ubiquitous. For an American listener who vaguely knows of the royal family and has realised that Prince Andrew is linked to the Epstein files that supposedly don't exist or do. Let's not get into that. For somebody like that, those 4 images that I sent you would mean nothing. So for me, yeah, you're right. Well, I remember him in a naval uniform going to the Falklands War. And that was about the time of Royal Wedding number 1, early 80s, where Prince Charles married Diana. About 5 years later, we had another royal wedding. When I was a kid, I thought these happened all the time. And he married Sarah Ferguson, who we were told that she had a shiny redhead, beautiful wedding, whatever, big ceremony. And we were told, though, various things. She was a bit common. Even though, I mean, I'm pretty posh, but I think she's even posher than me. But the whole idea that a woman who didn't conform to the rules liked to drink and a smoke and was cheeky, even though she went to very posh boarding school, her father played polo, and her whole life from this book at that time seems she doesn't leave the Chelsea or Kensington for about 6 years, whether it be living. I think she had a flat the other side of Battersea Bridge once, but she's always in the poshest parts of town and has ridiculous connections that led to her being in a room 100. But the weird thing was she was considered a bit too common for the royals. Do you remember that bit?
Yeah, really vaguely. I was quite young then, I guess, but yes, I do remember the sort of the talk around it. But I think that was at the time it was very endearing, wasn't it? A bit more like the people, despite everything you've just said there.
Yeah, but that was it. I mean, I think we were glad that the royal establishment were pissed off because this woman didn't necessarily answer the questions in the prim and proper ways that one would be expected to as a royal. And then after that, Andrew just, he's in the background. He hasn't really done anything iconic since flying that helicopter. Hadn't done anything iconic since flying that helicopter and marrying that woman. And the next time he really comes on the map is when the BBC's Emily Maitlis interviewed him on Newsnight about his links to dead paedophile Jeffrey Epstein. And basically he thought he'd done all right. But in the cold light of day when the interview aired, it was an embarrassment to the royal family. He was dismissed from active duty. And he now lives in disgrace. I think that's a fair upsum of how we as Brits take for granted that we feel and know about him. But remember, some people will be hearing this for the first time. So what do you remember when we had trouble? I tried to get people's opinions when I was living in Australia on the book Colditz, and nobody knew what Colditz was. So I think those very iconic moments are something that we take for granted, if you see what I mean.
Yeah.
That we know.
Yeah. I mean, these 4 pictures you've popped up on here, Navy, marriage, the infamous photo that sparked all this stuff, and the interview, the Newsnight interview. Really, in terms of the public eye, you didn't often see him being interviewed, but a lot of the royals are like that. The interesting thing about this is the very first sort of royal biography that we have reviewed.
No,
and
incorrect.
Apart from the David Mitchell one, the Unruly.
No. Well, oh my God, it turns out we're royalists. No, we did the Duke of Edinburgh's one by Giles Brandreth just after he died. And there are bits in this where the same story is being told from a different perspective. And the thing that got me in this book, Andrew Lownie, there is journalistic rigour. But you and I have been through journalism training. So he asked for contributions from 3,000 people, according to the preface of the book. He managed to speak to 300 of them. I'm not sure that I agree with the quality of some of his data. But the key moment for me was when he said, and in an open carriage behind the bride and groom on the way to the wedding in 1986, the father of the groom and the stepmother of the bride travelled together, possibly the first time they'd been together since they had an affair in 1959.
Wow. I missed that bit.
Yeah, you're good. I'm glad your reaction to that is the same as mine, because you and I know you can't say, if you leave out the allegedly or there was rumoured to and just go, they had an affair in 1959, even if Brandreth knew that at the time he wrote his Duke of Edinburgh book, and we recommend it, you can listen back to that episode if you like, audiobookklub.net. We know you need 2 independent verifiable sources before you say something as confidently as that.
And that's the interesting thing, right? He's been doing the media rounds pretty heavily, this author. And I don't think anyone's questioned him on it from the interviews I've heard. I had him on the News Agents podcast, for example, where actually, they really kind of kick the tires, as it were, on his, on the veracity of some of the stuff there, and how can you prove this and how can you prove that? But no one's really brought up that line at all. Well,
you know what? I'll tell you why. As confirmed when we had Jenny Draper on the show, her book Mavericks, she said it was really nice on social media afterwards. She said it was really nice to go on a program where someone had actually read my book. And the difference is, Steve, we actually read the books.
Yeah, but you definitely do. Sometimes I run out of road, but you definitely do, mate.
Well, that's because you have.
I don't know how you do this, by the way. You do this 3 or 4 times. Like, I read it. Yeah, I read it twice. And I was like thinking, it was like 14 hours long. Where did you get that?
Because I have no other life. I claim I'm retired, but I'm actually unemployed. And that's
dedicated to the books.
And that's how we are number 42 in the top 100 UK book podcast.
Yeah, I saw the rating. I'm not happy about that. What happened there? Well, we haven't been around for a little while. It's probably it. They tend to go on long sabbaticals in between seasons.
They lose their mojo. Layton has gone off for another one of his spiritual treks, microdosing mushrooms and wandering around the desert again. He'll be back in about September. It's my right as an Australian man to go walk about.
Absolutely right, mate. Till the water bill arrives. Quite right. Yeah.
3-step process?
Yeah, 3-step
process.
process.
Because we started talking about the author, and I think the author is going to be... I've got a lot to say about him. I think you, from what you said earlier, you have too, and I think it's the same thing.
Yeah, indeed. I mean, yeah. Do you want to give us a lowdown on Lownie? I don't. It's been quite different. He said his surname pronounced. He's got one of those surnames that you can pronounce very wrongly or very correctly.
Yeah.
Is it Lownie or Loney?
Yes. You've said that now, and you made me worried. But I listened to him loads of times, and I think he said Andrew Lownie. That's in the back of my head. Anyway, I will go through and reinsert the correct pronunciation if I make a mistake.
That'll be a tight edit. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. So we're going to do your 3-step process where, first of all, we talk about the author, because the book wouldn't be there if it weren't for the author. Then we talk about the book and what we think of that in a conventional book review kind of way. And then, of course, because we are evangelists for the audiobook, we talk about the performance, the delivery, the production of the audiobook and whether it contributes to the experience or takes away from it. So, the author is Andrew Lownie. He was born in November in 1961 in Kenya. He was brought up in Bermuda, it says. Even though he was brought up in Bermuda, he also somehow managed to go to Westminster School and studied at Magdalen College, Cambridge. He got his doctorate.
It's strange how this happens, isn't it? Because basically, when the average kid, when growing up, you tend to live in the same catchment area as the school.
Yeah.
And except if you're, I guess, of a certain background.
Well, hold on. What are we looking here? We're looking at...
So there's Bermuda.
Kenya and Bermuda. They're not oil, are they? They're just corruption.
And Triangle.
So he has written a number of books, none of which I have encountered before. The topics of said books include Stalin's Englishman, Guy Burgess, the Mountbattens, Their Lives and Loves, and then a book about the Duchess and Duke of Windsor, which is about how they got exiled. This is interesting to me. Lownie also wrote a literary guide to Edinburgh and has edited several volumes of John Buchan's works. I'd like to do... John Buchan is the man who wrote 39 Steps and was kind of one of the inspirations for James Bond. So he now lives in London, near Westminster Abbey, apparently. So, yeah, I mean, he is 64 years old. He sounds posh. He comes from quite a posh background, and he's an academic. He's got a doctorate, which I think was basically just him do what's it called? What's the word I'm thinking of, Steve?
Moonlighting.
He was moonlighting. He strangely, his doctoral thesis had the same name as his 2016 book. That was the Stalin's Englishman one. So, take that what you will. And he's also chairman of basically the organisation, the Honourable Company of Biographers. So he very much sees himself in that mould and is part of an organisation that brings biographers together, and they have tea and biscuits and have a chat, I should imagine. So he's very much a supporter of that form. I think we'll come back to the way he speaks in the bit in part 3 where we talk about what the book sounds like. But I think in terms of accent and tone, he's not too far away from the world of this book. Would you agree?
Yes. Well, I wouldn't have expected it to be narrated by, I don't know, Billy Bragg. This one.
No. Or indeed Steve Phillips.
Or indeed Steve Phillips, yes, with my Essex background. Okay, then. Well, do you want me to do the blurb section?
I love it.
Okay, here we go. Then. Right.
Can we? No. Can we give it a bit more build up? Because this is the only reason that all of the listeners to the number 42 best book podcast in the UK tune in for the dulcet, mellifluous tones of Steve Phillips as he reads us the blurb from the back of the book.
That's 30 seconds our listeners aren't going to get back, mate. I also appreciate the intention behind it. Very, very, very kind of you indeed.
Get on with it!
Okay. Makes Prince Harry's spare look positively restrained, says Sunday Times. Daily Express, a jaw-dropping account of arrogance, financial incontinence, greed, and indeed entitlement. And BBC News, this searing biography of Prince Andrew crackles with scandals. The first joint biography of the Duke and Duchess of York, and the first full biography of either of them by renowned royal biographer and literary agent Andrew Lownie. Drawing on 4 years of research, numerous FOI requests and interviews with over 100 people who have never spoken before, the book traces the lives of the Queen's second son and his ex-wife through their childhoods, courtship, marriage, divorce, careers, and royal and charitable activities. Still living in the same house, they claim to be the happiest divorced couple in the world. The book investigates the reality of their relationship and their love lives. It charts Andrew's record in the Falklands, his business activities, and reveals details of how the couple have been able financially to sustain their extravagant lifestyles. It also recounts the full story of the Yorks' links with Jeffrey Epstein. Chronicling their lives in parallel, the picture that emerges is of a spoilt prince, unable to connect, and a duchess pushed by her insecurities into a desperate need to maintain the attention her royal status brought. Rigorously researched and packed full of revelations, this is eye-watering biography at its best.
Both a black comedy and a tragedy. It shows how a man born into a prominent family with responsibilities as well as privileges found himself unable to fulfill the basic requirements of an ancient role, and how the jolly young woman who married him succumbed to every possible temptation on offer. It is a story as old as time, but played out in our time. The charismatic and handsome Prince Andrew, who returned from the Falklands in 1982 a war hero, is now in his mid-60s, a prisoner in his own house. A scorned figure relieved of royal duties, who spends his days playing golf and watching television.
Yeah, I mean, I really got into it in the first sort of chapter or so. I would say first chapter, it was very much in the parts and the way the audio book is. I mean, they're about an hour long or something, even more than that, some of the chapters. And it just felt like it was once they got through the childhood and the wedding, and then it got into the spending, it was just constantly talk of a helicopter for £43,000, a new computer for £61,000. That cost £61,000 as well. And, you know, it was just ended up just being a massive shopping list in terms of, from a listening point of view. It was so sort of, you became desensitized to the amounts of money that was being spent on and what it was being spent on, you know? You just became like, oh, it's another cost. It was so shocking. It became just normal to listen to. I'm so glad that you feel the same as I do about the list thing, because I struggled with that as well. But the clip we played at the top that talks about Andrew using whoopee cushions, itching powder, and putting dish soap in the pool. I enjoyed that bit eventually, although I started off going, this is that bloke who had a journalistic rigour, who was tearing Prince Andrew a new one on the radio 2 weeks ago. This is not... Whose side did you take in all this tomfoolery and japery as him as a kid?
Well,
were you on his side, or were you on the poor, put-upon servant's side who had to clear up his mess after him? I was thinking, you absolute little tearaway. What do you think of the people who've got to clear up your mess?
I'll be honest with you, Steve, and my feeling as this started was... What the bloody hell am I reading this for? I wanted journalistic rigour. It strikes me there's a little unlikely that there's a kid on his trike would have got itching powder and a whoopee cushion from, where did he go? The joke shop? I doubt he was allowed out the palace. So it didn't ring true for me. It was a great story.
Yeah.
But it sounds to me, when you think he said he spoke to 300 people. I mean, one of those people, and this irritated me, so it was somebody he had dinner with once in 1986. You know, that's some of it. And you just get the feeling that story is a collected memory. Where's he going to get He's 6 years old. Where's he going to get itching powder from? Where's he going to get a whoopee cushion from? If some grown up in a position...
Oh, no. Hang on. Joke shot by post. That's what you
Is that why they have that royal warrant? That explains it, right?
Yeah. By royal appointment, joke shot by post.
Yeah. Was it in the back of the Beano?
Your Royal Highness.
Do you think he was
the royal whoopee cushion, sir? Yeah. Thanks.
Yeah, Sir's X-ray specs have arrived.
Sir's itching powder. Yes.
Yeah. So look, and again, that's the lovely. That's what you want his childhood to be like. You want him to be a scamp. And again, as someone who's had kids myself, as a parent, you don't get much choice as to what they come out like. And also it fits with the image where he, you know, his siblings, Anne and Charles, he's in contrast to them, and perhaps portraying him in that light is easier because the other two are broadly seen as a bit more goody-goody. So he's someone different. And I thought, well, this is clearly confected out of some people's look, he might have done either the itching powder or the whoopee cushion while riding down the halls on his tricycle and tobogganing on a precious silver tray. But I doubt he did all of them, and it sounds like a story told by... It sounds like a fairy tale, doesn't it? So at that point I was going, well, this isn't the book I signed up for. And then gradually I started enjoying it as he grew up and he got into his bachelor years, and when we were introduced to Sarah Ferguson and her family, I started going, this is a lovely story about fully rounded human beings, and I'm not sure whether I like them or not. Give me more of this. And at that point, it switches back, and as you say, becomes somebody reading a number of lists.
I had that towards the end of the book, and you're really getting to the kind of the meat of it, you know, the disgrace, him being, his social media accounts being deleted, his, you know, the royal website being rewritten and all the rest of it. And then it went into, I think he actually said finance. He just announced the word finance, and I was like, oh, it's just business deed. Which if you're into that stuff, then that's your bit, isn't it? That's, yeah, you know, you'd be really into that stuff, but I guess I'm just not. But it just became another sort of just long list of figures and just bad stuff happening, and, you know, cover-ups and all the rest of it. And it just became a little bit, I don't know, we know by that point, if you're towards the end of the book, I don't think you're so engaged with the financial scandals that much anymore, because you're thinking, my goodness, the worst thing has happened to him. You know, he's absolutely gone down in disgrace. And then we find out about more business dealings, and you're thinking, well, that's kind of, you know, it's not so headline grabbing in my head anyway.
Okay, before we go on, I am a father of two 13-year-old children. And part of the reason that he has fallen apart is because it is alleged that convicted paedophile Jeffrey Epstein paid a 17-year-old to have sex with Prince Andrew. So that is the heart of the matter and the important bit and the terrible thing. And he's almost in trouble as much for the terrible cover-up and the way they've made films about what a disaster his interview with Emily Maitlis was. But before I go on, I want to emphasize that I do not take lightly the notion of 17-year-old children, be they of legal age depending on jurisdiction, but being paid to give it's practically statutory rape is what I would say. But that aside, this book and those lists of he took a helicopter ride that cost £4,000 when the train was only 78 minutes and cost £120. That part did not translate well to the audiobook format, I don't think. And again, the business things, and times have changed. And I say this about the business stuff and the helicopter stuff. The section of the book that was about how he had used his access to important people because he was a royal to subsequently find a way to make his own money. I went, yeah, that's what you do. It's like, how many people do you know who have quit one job to go and work for someone they met in the course of doing their previous, for their next job, that they'd met at a meeting, at a conference, in the job before? I think that's fine. And he's, unlike the rest of us, he can't go and get a job as an accountant, and he has to pay for private security if he leaves the house, or indeed leaves the country as a... so I felt that some of that was... I think not only was it boring, it sounded vindictive on the part of the author, who's not quite posh enough to be directly in those circles, but who has a copy of Who's Who and is prepared to phone people from Who's Who, decides who to phone by looking it up in Who's Who. So I feel that bit... In fact, do you know what? Before let's go on to the delivery of the audiobook, and it is rather strange that the clip I picked for us to listen to is an illustration of that use of lists, but in a different context.
At Gordonstoun, Andrew had been given the nickname Randy Andy, and it had stuck with him throughout his life. He's supposed to have slept with over 1,000 women and has never had any trouble attracting girlfriends. According to a friend, he doesn't drink, he doesn't smoke, and he doesn't take drugs, and never has. But sex is his big thing in life. He was known as Randy Andy for a reason when he was younger, and it's never really stopped. Travelling all over the world as a UK trade ambassador and for other royal duties has given him access to some beautiful women, and he's taken full advantage. Journalist Ian Halperin claimed he shagged porn stars, actresses, models, athletes, politicians and bartenders at clubs. There's even a long-standing rumour that he was having an affair with one of his household staff members when he was still married to Sarah Ferguson, the Duchess of York. Among the women whose names have been linked to his are Cabina Baudet Wellman, whose mother was supposedly one of Prince Philip's lovers, the former supermodel Christina Estrada, the American socialite Cornelia Guest, the CNN anchor Felicia Taylor, Michael Caine's daughter Nikki, the Macedonian pianist, model and actress in Mission Impossible Maya Dokish, the skincare entrepreneur Amanda Cronin, the fashion designers Alexandra Weston and Amanda Wakely, and the fashion entrepreneur Maxine Hargreaves Adams.
Can you imagine? So one other person's been mentioned twice in this, and that's, Michael Caine and his wife Shakira were at the wedding. And then, can you imagine? You've bought them a lovely hostess trolley, and how does he pay you back?
Yeah. That's, it'd be great to have Michael Caine on the podcast to see what he thought about that.
I don't think we do. I don't think that'd be our first question. He did. No. I'm very proud owner of, apparently Michael Caine, with his time in the south of France, likes to sit back in a linen suit, have a large whiskey and listen to chill out music. So this was discovered by an enterprising record company, and I own the CD of Michael Caine selected chill out tracks.
Oh, fantastic!
It's called Caned.
Caned. Oh, is it really called Caned?
It's really called Caned. Yep.
Oh, that's class. You know what? He's right up there with Christopher Lee when he's uncovered to be a massive metalhead and released a metal album.
I don't remember that.
That's fantastic. Oh yeah, Charlemagne. Yeah, I'll send you that.
I did frighten Christopher Lee once when I was working at GLR, but that's another story for another day. coming back to...
You frightened... Hang on. Whoa. You frightened Christopher Lee.
Yes.
Wow. The iconic face of Hammer Films.
He came in for interview when I was working as a broadcast assistant at GLR right at the beginning. So this is back in this time in 1998 or something like that. And he was pretty old even then. And I walked him into what effectively... Well, you worked in that building. You know, between the two studios, there is the green room / bits where the producers sit and talk.
Yeah.
He came in there, sat him down. He started quoting a Pushkin poem in Russian out of nowhere for some reason.
Wow.
And the great thing was that at the time, and I couldn't do it now, I knew what the next line was in Russian. So I just said it to him. Freaked the shit out of him. You weren't expecting... Boom, motherfucker.
Oh, wow. Wow.
He wasn't expecting that.
Oh, I bet he wasn't. Oh, man. All these stories, they'll keep these little gems sometimes surface, don't they? Now, the narration.
Yes.
Were you impressed with the narration?
Let's re-establish this. Yes. I think he's the right person to have written the book. And, you know, for us here at Audiobook Club... The yellow sticker that says read by the author is not always a positive, but in this case, I feel that he had the right voice for the job. I would describe him as a competent narrator, and that is, it was mainly competent, but my feeling, and I may need to go back and listen to the book again. And I think I might at some point on a train journey where I want to nod off, I might put it on again. I really loved the bits that were at the beginning that were history that we remember.
Yes.
Written by an adult who was an adult at the time I was a child about adults who were adults when we were children. And perhaps you and I didn't necessarily have the insight we would have now watching them get married or Selena. I watched Selena Scott interviewing him and their supposed flirtation that made headlines in the papers at the time. Absolute damp squib. Nothing that absolutely entirely sexless. So yeah, interesting to have a perspective on stuff that, you know, the hum of being British gives you, the opinion that the BBC, the tabloid newspapers and stuff have given us of him over the years. I loved that beginning bit. I loved, you know, little bits like the guest list to the royal wedding, stuff like that. I liked the stories of him at Gordonston not attending all the classes, but going up to the top of the cliff with his protection officer and shooting cans off a brick wall. I loved that, and it painted a really interesting picture of it and made it like a fairy tale. It made it a compelling listen. But we lost all of that because he had to put the journalistic integrity stuff in. And when you listen to that list that we've just played of people he'd shagged, you'll notice he stumbles over a couple of the names.
Yeah.
And my theory is, and it's just a mad theory, Steve, so forgive me. The feeling I got from this book is I loved the beginning and then got bored by the end, partly because the reading of lists, and I think the energy of the narrator. It would not surprise me if the publisher sent him to the studio and a senior producer was there at the time to help them get underway. And then later in the book, the senior producer said, "Oh, you're all right. You've got this. This will be fine. We'll leave junior tape button pressing person in charge and you go and sit in the screen." Because there wasn't... There are bits, even in that small clip, where if I were producing, I would ask them to, and I'm not good enough to be an audiobook producer, as we've previously discussed on this channel. But there are bits where I'd have gone, no, hold on, let's do that properly. Let's try and put a bit of energy into it. The simple solutions of things like, right, we're going to do this next one. We're going to give you a cup of coffee and we're going to make you stand up because I need the energy that we had for the first 5 chapters. So I can't work out the narrative. The narration certainly affected my reception of the book. I'm just trying to work out, was it the fact that the subject matter got bored, or that he lost energy, or is it a combination of the two?
For me, it sounded like just someone giving some very, very bad news over the course of 11 hours in one tone, just very solemnly, just declaring the facts. That was it. That's what it felt like. Very slowly, deliberately, just telling facts over, as though he's got like a giant book that he's about to slam shut at the end of the audiobook.
Do you know what? You're absolutely right. And I recorded a clip. The way this book was made, clearly there was a lot of emphasis on the journalistic integrity, and we know there were 3,000 people approached, 300 spoke to him. I started to realise that actually maybe the author's writing isn't interesting. Maybe it's the people he's quoting that are the good bits. And I actually, for the first time in my life, and this is about to happen to you for the first time, I assume, I thought about the research process because he quotes a book that you and I have actually read.
Andrew is awkward in company, finds it hard to relate to people, and has few friends. He rarely reads, preferring camera manuals or mindless videos such as Terminator. His ex-wife described him as an intellectual zombie. Apart from golf and making money, Andrew had a special fascination with special forces and the intelligence services. Author Ben McIntyre writes of how the Duke, at the height of the 1980 Iranian embassy siege...
Oh yes, of course, the siege.
...ordered his protection officer to contact Siege Police Commander John Dello, saying he would like to visit for lunch. According to McIntyre, the last thing Dello needed at this delicate moment was a princeling and his entourage in the building standing around asking questions and eating sandwiches. The young royal wished to be where the action was, and he was used to getting what he wanted. The request was refused.
So it's just really weird. And this is just a thing that's freaked me out totally is, oh yeah, I've read that book. And the idea that I have read a book that is a source for somebody who's setting out to create something of, academic and journalistic integrity. It's like, no, mate, I've read that book. I know exactly what you've done there. You've searched Control and F, Andrew, copy, and indeed paste.
Yes.
So we reviewed The Siege, didn't we?
Yeah, we did.
We did, didn't we?
We did.
We've reviewed 2 Ben McIntyre books on this programme. And you know what? That also made me realise that's who I wish had written this book.
Yeah.
At the end, it gets really scrappy. Yeah. And once he's gone beyond the financial stuff, the integrity stuff, and the Epstein stuff, suddenly we find ourselves getting a list of quotes from other people that are describing him, and they don't match, they form no cohesive narrative, and they contradict each other. Mm. And I just go, oh no, sorry, I want Ben McIntyre to do this.
Yeah, I mean, well, Ben McIntyre, any of his books, he really just brings this stuff to life. But I don't know. I don't think he'd do this sort of stuff, to be fair. I think he really brings sort of extraordinary events and periods of life really to life, yeah. I'd much rather listen to the story of Colditz or the siege than about the subject of this book, to be fair.
Okay. I'm going to disagree with you slightly, but only very slightly. Okay. And that is, if you walk into this book with the expectation of a vivid picture of the prince's early childhood, London in the 1980s, royal weddings, toffs at it, then read this book until about part 6, and then put it down before it leaves you with what is probably to the author the important bit, which is evidence that it's properly researched. But I think both of us, I'm so glad when you at the top of the show said it's a list.
Yeah, it is completely.
Oh, yeah, it's a list. It's a list of lists.
It is.
But there is good stuff in there. You know how Audible sometimes do that thing where you can get 2 books for 1 credit. Maybe wait till that comes along, and you come and visit Steve and Matt's Audiobook Garage, where we cut and shut audiobooks. You do the first half, this book, and then the second half of a book that is yet to be found. So Vauxhall Corsa at the front, Ford Mondeo at the back. Does that make sense?
That sounds like my perfect car. Sizes. Well, let's wrap this one up, because I think, to be honest, even talking about the whole list thing and the way it sort of withers away at the end. Let's let our listeners know what we're doing next week and just get them G'd up again, eh?
Have you gone that far down the script? Do you know what we're doing next week?
Yeah, I am totally on that. Do you want to read it out? Do you want to go
Well, we're going back to where we started.
Back to the one.
The author of the first book we ever reviewed, This Is Going to Hurt, Adam Kay, has apparently done a murder mystery. Famously, our first also ever interaction on social media. We said it must be quite hard recording an audiobook, and he came back to us. He contributed.
He did.
He said, yes, it was a bit of a faff. So, yeah, if I don't know what it's going to be like, he's a great author. Also walking into my favourite genre, as you've pointed out, the murder mystery. Yes, we'll do that next week. Give us the details, Steve.
Next week's book, as we record, it was released today, so it's hot off the streaming press, really. A particularly nasty case by Adam Kay. This one is read by Andy Serkis, so really looking forward to this one. Looking forward to that.
That's got to be good.
Yes, out 28th of August. It's 10 hours, 9 minutes long. It's by Orion, the publisher. And that's what we're doing next week. So I've already downloaded that. I downloaded it during a lull in the list. I think one of the clips you just played, I thought, I'll download next week's book while I'm here.
Did you?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, it's difficult when you're describing something boring not to become a raging bore yourself. And I already had a head start. So, yeah, you were listening to something else while I was doing the podcast. This is not the first time.
No. While you were playing one of the clips of our author we've been reviewing this week, not yourself. Of course, Matt. Of course.
You're always locked on when I'm talking, are you?
Of course, dear listener, if you disagree with what I just said, then do feel free to get in touch via our socials. We're on Blue Sky at Audiobook Show. Same for Instagram as well. Let us know what you're reading. And if you have also, as we record, obviously we won't be putting it out till next week, but if you're going to download A Particularly Nasty Case, this is the first novel from Adam Kay, narrated by Andy Serkis, then let us know what you think for next week's show. And we look forward to seeing you then. Oh, it's great to be back, isn't it? Getting our teeth into some literary classics of the future.
I'm raring to go. My pencils are sharpened and my pencil case is polished.
I can see you've been doing that quite vigorously.
The Under Nanny did it. That was an interesting thing up from this book.
The Under Nanny?
It was partly brought up by the Under Nanny.
What?
So you know the thing where, the royals have these, I can't remember what, the Queen's nanny was called like Miffy or Momsy or something. Andrew's head nanny was called Mamba. But he was mainly brought up by the Under Nanny.
The Under Nanny. Oh man!
Oh, by the way, we didn't mention Spare once during this.
No, I couldn't even do that.
Yeah, I was interested that you didn't want to read that, but you suggested reading this. So yeah, that.
Well, yeah. I mean, this one is because he's always in the. I mean, you kind of, yeah.
I think it's you like history. I think that's what it is.
I like history. This is
you don't like the present. You never have.
No, I can't let go of the past, no matter how grisly it may have been at times. But yeah, let's change tack. I've heard enough about this one. Let's go for a bit of Adam Kay and a particularly nasty case. Looking forward to that next week. Matt, thanks for your insights as ever.
Oh, thank you for putting up with me. Loved it.
It's been good stuff, and we'll see you all next week.
Audiobook Club with Steve Phillips and Matthew Layton.